under factorization of algebraic expression, let's take a look at factorization by quadratic trinomials. We want to understand the terminology quadratic trinomial. From the word on the board, we all realize that the first one is quadratic. And the word quadratic means any expression or any mathematical statement whose or which variable's highest power is 2. So for an example, if I write x squared plus 3x minus 5, this is an expression. Since there is a square term in the expression, we can consider this particular expression as a quadratic. Don't forget that the square term has made this entire expression quadratic. So in a nutshell, quadratic becomes an expression whose variable's highest power is 2. Now, trinomials. The word trinomial means 3 terms. From this particular expression, which is quadratic, we can see the first term, the second term, and the third term, which makes this expression trinomial. So in a nutshell, quadratic trinomial can have a general form as ax squared plus bx plus c. We do not equate quadratic trinomials or quadratic expressions to 0. When a quadratic expression is equated to 0 or equated to any constant or any real number, it becomes a quadratic equation. At this point, we are considering quadratic expression. So please don't forget that quadratic expressions are not equated to any constant or real number. So the ax squared plus bx plus c is a general form in which quadratic trinomials must be, with a as a real number also referred to as the coefficient of the square term. That is to say, the number right in front of the square term. The next term is b. B is also a constant number which is referred to as the coefficient of the x term or the power 1 term or the middle term. Then the final one is c. C is a constant, and then we understood that a constant is any number that stands alone, sometimes without variables. A constant is a number whose real value is known, and a constant is a number which has no variable attached to it. So any expression or any mathematical statement written in this form becomes a quadratic trinomial. Please, the arrangement of quadratic trinomial must be this way. This is the basic arrangement for you to start a quadratic trinomial under the factorization. So finally, quadratic is having the highest power as 2, and trinomial means 3 terms. Let's take a look at more questions and how we factorize quadratic trinomials. Let's take our first example under factorization by quadratic trinomial. The question says factorize x squared plus 5x plus 6. If you check from the question, we want to verify whether indeed this expression is a quadratic trinomial. Number 1, quadratic. Yes, because the square term, which is x squared, is in the question. Number 2, trinomial. There are 1, 2, 3 terms in the expression. So finally, this expression is considered to be a quadratic trinomial. Now let's proceed to see how we can factorize the expression which is quadratic trinomial. Now, first of all, please check the arrangement of the expression. The right way that you can solve these questions appropriately will be the square term must be first. The middle term should be the x term, that is the term with the power 1. If this place is x squared, we demand that this becomes x power 1. Then the 6 has an x, but the x is x power 0. Just to say 6x raised to the power 0. The reason is every number raised to the power 0 is 1, which makes this expression 6 times 1. 1 from the x raised to the power 0. Now 6 times 1 still remains at 6. That is why the constant is 6, meaning the power of the variable is 0. So once we have this arrangement, we have to factorize. But if you remember under method of grouping, we need 4 terms to help us factorize by grouping. X squared must have its term, and then 6 must also have a term. So we need to break the middle term, which is 5x, into 2 different terms. How do we do that? That takes us to the second step. Step 2. Since x squared is starting, we need to check the coefficient of the x squared. The coefficient of x squared is 1. So we will take 1 and multiply it by the constant, which is 6. Don't forget, take the coefficient of the square term and multiply it by the constant. So it becomes 1 times 6, which gives us 6. Now that we have 6 from 1 times 6, the second step has produced 6. So let's go to the third step. Step number 3. Find the factors of the answer 6. So we want factors of 6. Don't forget, factors of 6 are the numbers that can multiply to produce 6. So let's look for a pair of numbers that can multiply to get 6. We can talk about 1 and 6. So 6, you can talk about 1 and 6. So 1 times 6 will get a 6. Let's look for other numbers. Under 6, we can get 2 times 3. So 2 times 3 can also give us 6. Now, so the pair of factors for 6 will be 1, 6, and then 2, 3. These are the factors of 6. Now, the third step is, considering these factors of 6, we want 2 of them that can add to give us the middle term. The reason why we are using addition is the fact that the question contains only addition signs. If we get to another question and there's a subtraction sign, we will consider subtracting the factors to also see whether we can get the middle term. Now that they are all addition, which 2 of these pair of factors can multiply to produce the answer 6, and they can add to produce the middle term's coefficient, which is 5. And obviously it's 2 and 3. So we can say that 2 plus 3 produces 5. But it is 5x. So we'd have to then give the variable x to them. So 2x plus 3x can replace 5x. Since 2 times 3 will still give us the 6, we will then substitute 2x plus 3x in place of 5x. So let's go there. It becomes x squared plus positive 2x. So the positive sign is there. Then plus 3x, which is positive 3x. Then we repeat our plus 6. We have the pair of factors. That is to say, we've been able to break this trinomial into 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you check well, you realize that x squared has a common factor with 2x. And also 3x has a common factor with 6. So we continue and factorize this by common factors. Grouping the first 2, the common factor will be x. X will divide x squared, remaining with x. Now let me demonstrate that. X squared divided by the common factor, which is x. X goes into itself 1 and goes into x squared as x. So the final answer will be x. That is why this stage is x. Now let's take the next one, which is 2x. We'll divide it with the common factor x. So 2x divided by the common factor x. X into itself 1 and x into this remaining with 2. So the answer will be 2. So it will be positive 2. Now let's consider the next 2 terms, which are 3x plus 6. So the common factor is 3, which is positive 3 out. Then 3x divided by 3. So 3x divided by 3. 3 into itself 1 and into 3 here, remaining with x. So here we remain with x. Then 6 divided by 3 is 2. So positive 2. Now if you can see, we have been able to factorize, and within the brackets, we can see common terms. X plus 2, x plus 2 in the bracket. So we will group them by factorizing x plus 2 out. Now let's continue. So we will draw 2 different brackets. The first bracket can contain those inside the bracket or those outside the bracket. You choose your choice. So I want to go in for those inside the bracket, just as factorizing it out. So x plus 2. X plus 2 here, x plus 2 here in one bracket. Now, pretend as if there are no x plus 2. What is remaining? We can see the outside one, x, and the plus 3 also outside. So x plus 3. So please, this will become our final answer from the quadratic trinomial. Final answer is x plus 2 in bracket and another bracket x plus 3. And look at another question under factorization by a quadratic trinomial. The question says factorize x squared plus x minus 6. First of all, let's check and verify whether this expression is indeed quadratic trinomial. Quadratic must have a term with power 2, and x squared is the squared term or the power 2 term. So we have a quadratic in the expression. Trinomial means there must be 3 terms. 1, 2, 3. Since there are 3 terms, then we have a trinomial. So in conclusion, we have a quadratic trinomial question now. So we have to factorize. Step number 1, the arrangement must conform to the general form of quadratic trinomial, which is the square term first with the power 1 second. That's the second term being the x power 1, and then the last term being the constant. Now, even it's this way, we can still factorize. The step number 2 will be check the coefficient and then multiply it by the constant. The coefficient of the square term is 1. We multiply it by the constant. In this my procedure, I won't make use of the negative sign. I will multiply with its positive state because I want to get only positive factors. In other examples or other methods for solving this, you can still maintain the negative and find positive and negative factors of your answer. This is what I mean. 1 times 6 without the negative will give me positive 6. So 1 times 6. So I will use the positive 6 to get the factors of 6. So I need factors of 6 as my third step. Then the factors of 6, as we already know, will be 1, 6, and then 2, 3. What does it mean? 1 times 6 will give you 6. 2 times 3 will give you 6. That's how we get the factors of 6. The next step is, since all these pair of factors can multiply to give us 6, we need to get 2 of the factors that can also add or subtract to get a coefficient of the x. If you check, the coefficient of x is positive 1. Now, which of these pair of factors can either add or subtract to give us positive 1? If we check within it, then 2 and 3 qualifies. Why? Because minus 2 plus 3 will give us positive 1. Or 3 minus 2, the other way around, will also give us positive 1. Now, don't forget that I always recommend you check the variable against the middle term, which is x. Then you do the same thing. You just attach the variables to these 2 numbers. So we have 2x and 3x. Now, in the 4th step, we'll go and substitute 2 minus 2x plus 3x with x. So let's do the substitution. So now we have x squared. Instead of positive x, we ignore. Then we come to minus 2x. So minus 2x, which automatically brings the minus sign. Then we go to the next one, plus 3x. So plus 3x. Then finally minus 6. This will now bring us to our 4 terms, where a group or a term and the other can be grouped according to their common factors. So I have x squared minus 2x with the common factor of x. And I have 3x minus 6 with the common factor of 3. We can now factorize x squared minus 2x since they have a common factor. So x as a common factor out. Now, x squared divided by x will give us x. This is what I mean. X squared divided by x. X into itself 1. X into x squared will give you x. So the answer will be x. Then we will replace it. So x minus 2x all over x. And x into itself is 1. Then x here, we get minus 2 as the answer. So we bring minus 2. Close bracket. Now the common factor here is positive 3. Now we will have to divide 3x by the positive 3. So 3x divided by the 3. 3 will cancel itself 1 and cancel this 3. Remaining with x. So we have x as the answer. So x here. Now minus 6 divided by 3 will give us minus 2. So we can now proceed by factorizing x minus 2, x minus 2. We'll factorize it out since they are common in the brackets. Let's factorize. So we open two different brackets. Since x minus 2 and x minus 2 are in a bracket, it comes out to make x minus 2 in one bracket. And then we have x plus 3 outside the bracket. So x plus 3. You can also interchange the position of these two brackets, which still becomes correct. So then each bracket x minus 2, another bracket x minus 3 becomes the final answer for this quadratic trinomial.